Hi, everybody.
Good start. Good start.
Good start. We are having some technical issues. Is it actually Mercury retrograde? I feel like
it is.
Maybe that's frowned upon, but Mercury retrograde, it might be a thing because we ran into some technical issues, but we're here now. So thank you so much for waiting and for tuning in to our turn to host the Patreon live stream. So we can all introduce ourselves and then let you know what we're going to do today, because as you can see, we have a bit of a setup. So my name is Susanna, and I am a co-founder and creative director at Thought Cafe.
Hi guys, I'm James. I'm an associate creative director and an illustrator at Thought Cafe. Working a lot on Crash Course too.
I'm Julia, and I'm a producer at Thought Cafe.
So just a very quick general update is a few of us here from the studio just got back from VidCon. So that was really fun. That was our first time being there, and we did a panel with Adobe to talk about how we do our animations. And it actually kind of gave us the idea for what we wanted to do with you guys today. And that is, you know, in the panel, we touched a lot on branding, a lot of the stuff that we do behind the scenes when we work on like a new Crash Course series, as well as general like animating tips. But we thought it would be fun to take everybody through our branding process. We're going to share our screen, and James is going to do sketches, and you know, we're all going to sort of put our heads together and brainstorm some ideas. So do you want to intro the series that we're branding? That everybody gets to.
Sure. So for this sort of like example purposes, to show you sort of what we do going through the branding step, we're gonna show you what we do if we were hypothetically doing a Crash Course Cats show, which we kind of played on for our April Fool's gag this year, but we figured since we sort of had fun with that, we may as well take what we did and just show you guys what we would do if it was actually going to be a full show. And just go through like the steps of what we do, going through what things are going to look like to differentiate one show from another. And so we've got like a set list of items we go through that are in all Crash Course shows. And sometimes we update them for each show. Sometimes things stay the same for certain segments, but we'll show you, we'll go through it the same way we do when we brainstorm it as a studio.
Yeah, so Cats is funny, you know, the internet loves cats, and who knows if it'll ever be a real Crash Course show, but if it is, we will have the first major step of the branding complete after today.
Yeah.
And we do have like a couple little things that we like jokingly branded for Cats when we were playing up the April Fool's thing, that we can show you as we go through.
And a lot of times this stuff comes down to us just brainstorming as a group. So if we're going through any of these steps, feel free to comment if you can do that. If any ideas or anything you want to see sketched, we're going along, please let us know.
Yeah, Julia is watching our group chat, so she will answer your questions and comments and let us know if anyone has anything to contribute. And I don't know if Kelsey was going to join us. He mentioned he might want to, so we can like give him a shout to come down. Kelsey is an art director and illustrator with us as well, so you guys might get to meet him. So let's move into our screen here. Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Isn't that a treat? I don't know if everyone can see that, but it's crazy when that happens. Okay.
How do you avoid that happening?
Let's try that again.
Do application window.
Yeah, wow, that was
that got very glitchy. All right, so we'll share.
Oh.
Okay, that doesn't work either. Let's try our entire screen again. Is there a reason that's happening that we don't know? Okay, maybe because it's on Google Hangouts. Is it normalizing?
Let's see. Let's wait. We have a bit of a lag.
We're just gonna see if everyone can see what happens when you win solitaire, or if they're seeing an actual document. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, good.
Yay. Okay, so I guess it just freaks Google Hangouts out to see itself.
Yep.
Okay, so this here is our branding document. So just some fun little things. We usually kind of list out who the team is that we're working with. So that might be Indiana or Missoula. And that's just for our own purposes. We usually list who's art directing. We just have some random cat-like names here. Our animator. Oh, and Kelsey's here. What's up, Kelsey? We'll show Kelsey's face momentarily as we will bring ourselves back. So let me just pull up a chair for Kelsey. Okay. So then we list like who our animator is and our host. So that's kind of the team that works on the series. We usually link to where the scripts are, which is null for cats because there's none. Same with a rough cut. We don't have a set. But when we do have a set, we post a photo of it so that we can see what we have to work with.
So that was one from theater and drama.
Right. And that helps us because for certain on-screen graphics, you know, it helps with placement or like how we want to design that graphic to look. Like if there's a lot of circles, like say globes and things, we don't want to do too many circular things. So yeah, so this is kind of the document we go through, and it lists like all our different segment types that we go through. So we'll kind of work through them and explain them. And then we'll also jump back and forth to our branding files. So we can actually show you guys what those look like, but I guess we can do them as we go through.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I'll just have it open. So, oh my gosh, where is... Oh no, it is in segments.
Yep.
Oh, but wait, I have the templates now.
Sweet.
We could kind of show those. Okay, so let's start with the mascot.
So this has kind of been like a legacy document that we've used from the beginning. And mascots were things we used to put more focus on than we do now, just because some shows don't last as long, and other times they can seem a little forced, or we put the time into designing one and then they never really get used. So it's still on our document, but unless there's like a really important or interesting use for a mascot, sometimes we just skip over it. But usually we tend to either rely on old ones like the Mongol, or call back to an old host or something like that. But generally we just sort of don't end up doing it. We just are like fans and commenters don't tend to really latch onto them the way they used to in other series. So we just don't put as much effort into it.
Yeah, that's true.
But for cats, it'd be pretty good to have a cat as a mascot.
But what kind of cat, right?
We're talking tabby cat.
Yeah.
Name other types of cats you know.
Tabby cat.
Persian cats. Scottish folds. Those are cute.
Maine Coon, yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's about all.
What about like a cat?
Manx cats, the ones with no tails.
Would we do a cat, or would we do like a cat toy?
See, here we go. Brainstorm.
Like
catnip.
Yeah, catnip, like a ball of yarn. I don't know if any cats play with balls of yarn these days.
Be a mouse.
What about a dog? Play with
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. A mouse would actually be funny too, because
they'd be running around being chased by cats.
it would, yeah.
Tom and Jerry kind of thing.
I think that's a good
Siamese
one.
cat, calico cat, Russian blue.
Oh, are these comments?
No, these are comments.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not
so-
trying to take credit for our
I kinda
lovely
love the
patrons.
mouse idea.
I do too.
That is like terrified of being in the show.
Just accidentally ends up on the show.
Yeah.
I think that's
Dresses
fun.
up as a cat. He's like a little cat robot. They go around.
I love it too. So we just write down anything that everyone tends to.
What were
has
other
potential.
types of cats people said?
Siamese,
We're gonna list it.
We're not gonna list all the cats.
Not all of them, no. Siamese, just some.
calico, Calico, Russian blue. That's good.
Seems like a good roundup.
Mhm.
And I think dog deserves to be on there in the running, just to consider. I think it's something there.
Yeah.
What were you saying about the mouse? It's got clothes on? It's dressed up?
They could dress up as a cat.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
kind of blend in.
Classic Looney Tunes gags.
Oh my god, like like an animal hoodie, like, you know what I mean? Like really cute, like an animal in an animal costume.
Yeah.
It's adorable.
So we also have, when we do this, we have to keep in mind, or remind ourselves how many more tasks there are, and be like not to get too hung up on any of these one steps. So
Yeah.
now I think we put enough time into mascot.
Yeah.
down to the logo.
Should we show an example mascot? I can like search one here quickly. Like our
the Mongol's the main one.
lemon.
Appleton.
Squeezy.
Mr. Squeezy.
Squeezy.
Yeah, Squeezy.
That's the most disappointing one.
We really tried to get Squeezy to work. I think it's 2 E's.
Oh.
Is it? I don't remember. No, I think you spelled it right.
What?
We did it with a Y, right? First.
Wait, you're looking in other?
Oh.
Yeah, Squeezy was our mascot for economics, and we tried throwing him in all the way to the end, and then not really anybody knows.
He has multiple.
There's multiple layers present.
Find another file. There's ones where he's like dressed up as a farmer. There's ones where
we even made the whole intro about the lemonade company that he worked for.
That's why it was at least relevant, because the intro was sort of about like them starting off as kids in a lemonade stand and then like going to a bank and getting a loan and then turning that into a juice empire and then presenting this thing to city council with this like Squeezy mascot there with the presentation for them, helping them win it.
Heidi says, wow, I really love how you guys come up with ideas together and so communicative with each other.
Aw.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The
The
branding's actually my favorite part because we involve the whole studio in it. So no matter what team anyone's on, even if they don't work on Crash Course, everyone's welcome to brainstorm with us.
And some people are particularly good at certain parts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Adam is particularly good.
We're going to need to call Adam down
We'll
for
get
that
there.
part.
We'll point out which part. So then the logo. We always have the same format for the logo, where it's like, maybe just bring up any of the logos, where it's based off the main Crash Course logo, but then we'll try and change the colors up and find some kind of element to put above the label for the show. So for cats, say, we just brainstorm a whole bunch of ideas of like, is it just a cat? Is it a ball of yarn? Is it a mouse hiding in the cheese? And we sort of just throw a bunch of things like this against the wall. And usually it's pretty clear the like 1 or 2 that are the strongest or that'll like work the best because it's just in a small area at the top. So we're bringing up this is the regular Crash Course logo, the pink one.
This is a history of science. So these are actually our template files, like our Illustrator. They're sort of like design templates. So they just have notes on things we usually do. But yeah, this is from History of Science. So the element here was an astrolabe. What is it?
I don't know what
Someone we should know.
Is it called an astrolabe?
Yeah, I think oh no, wait, it's not. It's not, because I know what that is now. This is
we learn with everybody else. Crash Course teaches us.
Okay, so logo ideas for cats. So yeah, like
someone said a ball of yarn at the top and the mascot's face on the bottom. Maybe whiskers at the side of the logo.
Well, we're really thinking outside the box here.
Wow.
Yeah, turn the logo.
Cat and masks, like the top part of the cat's head.
A litter box with stink lines coming out of it. That's anyone who's had a cat knows that's
a major part of cathood.
Yeah.
We also, like, as a treat, did design a logo for Crash Course Cats, but I think we'll just share it on something after. I don't know where to find it right now.
Did you try searching for it?
It might come up, yeah.
I don't remember what we did. But
although I don't want to spoil people's brainstorming, but it's actually really close to the first one someone said.
What about like a kitty climbing tower? One of those.
Oh, Jurassic Park-esque scratches.
Ooh. Okay, wait. Kitty climbing tower, and then Jurassic Park-esque scratches. I like that.
Yeah.
So this is like in the cooking show when you're like, and here's what it looks like, right?
They're the CC cats, right?
Yeah, but like, where did I put it? Oh, see, I'm not gonna find it. Maybe it's just called CC cats.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Historic,
but that's the end. Where was the logo?
Did we post it anywhere?
I think we did.
Maybe just try cats.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a couple cat access.
Oh wait, CC Cats would have it.
This is like the Jurassic Park hacking scene.
Cats. Oh my god, but where's the logo?
Okay, we'll have to get it back to you guys. Have to check in.
Oh, it is. Here it is.
Yes.
Are we ready?
Oh, we did.
Shoot!
Ball of yarn. That's what we did. Oh,
Yeah.
we even changed the DFTBA word bubble.
Yeah. Meow.
Yeah.
And we called it Felinology because it sounds smarter.
Ah,
I think it could be an actual course.
we're pretty clever sometimes.
But yeah, let us know what you think of this logo.
Yes.
This is what we made
Cats.
during April Fools.
Anyway,
Adrian says, I just love how the only way to navigate your Dropbox is the search bar.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
we're using the web version. So.
Yeah, but we do
We
use like in
the
the find
desktop.
on the desktop version, we use Finder search all the time.
Yeah.
But
That's really the only way to
The
go.
library is so huge.
yeah.
Anyway, so
All
we got
right,
the logo.
intro sequence.
Yeah,
So we got
this
the
one-
logo. Yeah.
So logos tend to be you start with a couple scenes that end with the logo, and in some cases we would then end with a thumbnail for the show. But I think we've decided to streamline that, right? Because some like the science shows had a slightly different layout than the humanities shows.
Mhm.
We're trying to make them all the same now, where we would just do a bunch of scenes and then a logo screen. So the hard part is just trying to come up with a concept of a little story to tell. And
A
that
narrative
yeah.
over 3 scenes.
Well, exactly like we were talking about with the economics one, where it was like the growth of a lemonade business from lemonade stand to like a whole conglomerate. And some shows are a lot easier to come up with those stories than others.
Yeah. Maybe the history of humans' relationships with cats. We show the ancient Egyptians petting their cats and worshiping cats.
Yep.
We go to the medieval period where they killed a bunch of cats over the plague. There's like a big bonfire of cats.
That's great.
And then we go to modern times, like cats on YouTube and like the digital empire of cats.
That's fantastic. And
Wow.
Hit
generally
it out of the park.
these kind of chronological concepts are the first ones we
Yeah.
sort of throw out because it makes the most sense. But that we don't like stopping there, we're like trying to see if there's something that maybe isn't as dependent on time, or if there's maybe an idea that someone comes up with that's just like really unique. And sometimes those are crazy. Like I really like the history of science one. Suze was just about to show.
Mhm.
Oh, it was showing. Or it isn't. This was another tough one because there's so much that's covered in science that doing a chronological thing would be difficult. So they decided to go with like treat it as if it's like the science fair at a school, and all these famous scientists from throughout time are presenting their projects. And so it's just essentially like going through a bunch of different rooms at the school, looking at the different projects, which I think is probably one of the more unique intros we've done. It's really funny. Just love the idea of like having them all mingling, looking for Hank's judging them to see who's going to win.
Yeah, it's Hank.
It's really
Brian asked, am I the only one who pauses the opening sequences of Crash Course videos to read each of the quote bubbles?
Definitely
I hope
not.
cute. I really hope not.
Yeah.
Probably though.
That's no.
I think a lot of people do it.
Yeah.
We put
A lot of work
time.
goes into
Yeah.
that.
Just
I
to-
still do it all the time.
Dawn says
know.
not at all. I do too.
Good,
Okay.
good.
Does anybody pause?
And then
the
Heidi
stories?
said, "Oh, def not."
We don't know what that
So
is.
we're good.
We did have someone in the audience at the panel say that they read all the unhistoric jokes.
Oh,
Good.
They got
wow.
it. Yeah.
Well, we
What
haven't
kind of masochist?
the thing with those fact boxes that we've been doing this since the show started is like it can. I'm sure some people find it like intimidating or think that like we've done it too fast. But the whole idea is to sort of sum up what the whole vibe of the show is, where it's real rapid fire, and you're not always going to catch everything your first way through. Sometimes we need to pause to do things, but kind of like it's the nature of the show. It's like a ton of info, and if you want it, you can go back and find a lot of extra stuff in there. But if not, you don't have to. But
And the intro is definitely the biggest thing that we do. It takes us the longest period of time.
yeah.
Mhm.
And it's exciting.
Usually about
Yeah.
a week to illustrate, most of the week, if not maybe just a couple days to animate.
Yeah.
But then it can be like a day or two just for those fact boxes.
So Kelsey, take me through your idea one more time.
Okay, we
Yeah.
start ancient Egyptian times
Mhm.
with people worshiping cats and like petting cats, and that's like our opening scene. Fast forward, we go to the medieval times where they were burning cats. They also had cat trials. They had animal trials where if like an animal murdered a person, they would hold it on trial as if it was a person. So we could like call to that, and there could be like a cat fire in the background. And then we go to modern times where we go to the cat's digital empire, whereas lolcats,
Yeah. Cat, keyboard cat.
cheeseburger, yeah, keyboard cat.
This is a great
Someone-
example where someone amongst our group has knowledge of cats. That
Yeah.
was like,
I'm saying
this is great.
This show is coming together already.
Yeah, it is. It is. But like, just the historical knowledge is great. Like that, when like one or two people know a bit about the subject, it can really help.
So let's say quickly, let's say we start on the logo. I don't remember what our consensus is nowadays, if we want to start or end on it. But okay, so if we end on it, how do we see ourselves going into that?
Oh, well, if we're already on a website.
Oh, right. Okay.
Cat
Someone
digital
did
and-
say that they would want to see like a cat as president at the end.
Oh, sure. I think we do.
So that could be kind of funny.
Scenes.
So
yeah,
maybe
so that could be
it's-
the last.
Yeah.
The future.
The
Cats
Over.
take over. Cats take over.
Is it like a regular looking cat, or is the cat been genetically?
I guess it has to look like the logo.
Like a
right?
human cat.
I'm picturing like keyboard cat,
Oh,
but
yeah.
over a podium, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And then we usually have to find some kind of interesting way to transition to the logo. We don't like it just being like the logo dropping down.
Maybe it's like a banner coming down, like a world, like a one world order kind of thing, but it's like the cat world order.
Yeah.
and it could be like a cat like scratching down the
Nice.
reveal it.
That's fantastic.
Someone said it would be awesome to have a site that shows all the still images of each scene of the opening sequence.
Mm.
We did post them on our Tumblr for a while. We haven't done it in a bit, but
Will we
we
get
should
them?
catch up.
It could be cool to have a little.
Yeah, we used to post them.
use.
Yeah, that would be a very good idea. We should definitely do that.
Their next intern.
Soon.
Okay, we got the intro covered then.
Now we get into our own internal language for some of our segments.
Yes.
Yeah,
Some
so
of the made up words.
let's see if we can find an example of the ditty in this episode. So the ditty is like an on-screen graphic that has stayed the same. It's always this like line pattern with a diamond shape and then an item inside of it. But for certain series, we have considered changing up the pattern. We definitely changed the color, but we haven't ventured too far from that. We used to try at the beginning and like nothing else worked well with the composition of everything. So we've always kind of stuck to this.
Yeah, we would try and change the shape or like make them really unique, and every time we would just sort of get pummeled back by when we screen it, and we're like, this is not working, and we just go back to the diamond. So it's one of the things that has remained the most similar since we started, but it's because we have tried other things and just ends up not working as well. I think some shows use different textures and patterns, but it's generally the same shape.
So we can just say, make it pink.
Yeah.
Because the logo is pink.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I don't remember why.
Another thing we do more now than we used to do is have characters elements break out of the ditty frame.
I love them.
And I think it can work so nicely. Like, there you go. That's a great example.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the characters are still sort of like bounded by the frame, but it can be really fun if that can be used to comical or just as a surprise element. If things are locked in and all of a sudden something flies out, it can be just fun things for the art director and team to think about when they're doing the show.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so ditty's usually nice and quick. So unhistoric is where we're going to need Adam for this, but in terms of the style, so the unhistoric is like whenever we show photographs or like references to actual people and we style those photographs and then style things around them. So I have an example.
Kind of our way of getting around copyright usage.
Yeah.
Well, also getting around the fact that like historical figures might be a sculpture, it might be a painting, it might be a photograph, and this is a way to tie it all together aesthetically.
Yep. It's really just
may have to look for
coloring
an
them really
example.
funky. And then
Yeah, it might not be in here.
yeah, so it's like a matter of finding stock images, coloring them like crazy neon colors, making it kind of fun and silly. Putting them there we go. That's great. That's a good one.
Yeah, this one in particular has a drawn character, but usually it's a photograph of a person and then we color over top in Photoshop, right? And then we have all these elements that we design around it. So for history of science, we kind of went for like elements of nature, biology, like space, astronomy. We've got a prism here that's like reflecting the person. So it's like, it's actually kind of trippy and cool. So that's the unhistoric segment that
and we put a lot of time into the design of those to differentiate between each show.
Yeah.
And that box in the sort of right-hand side, that was intended, they started as just being sort of punny jokes, and some, depending on who's art directing each show, some of them still are really sort of like just eye roll worthy dad jokes. Some of them are more sort of fact-based. It sort of varies from show to show. Each team wants to do.
Someone said, so neat to learn the industry slang like Diddy. Just want to reiterate that it's not the industry.
It's not industry, yeah. It's very random.
Don't say that expecting anyone to know that you're talking about.
It's like an inside joke that people will roll their eyes. They'll be like, what? And we say it by accident to clients sometimes.
Yes.
And they're like, what are you
That's
talking
happened
about?
to me before, where I write it in to a client and then they're like, just a question, what's that? And I have to explain where it comes from.
It's our version of thingamajig.
So we should call Adam down to do the joke.
We had a cat's document. We did this already, right?
We did do this already. I guess we don't really need to brainstorm it. I don't know if we like included a joke in it though. Sorry, I have to share the screen again.
True.
But let's see here. There's sharing. So I think
you did cats.
here.
I feel like there was there was a document in CC Cats. Right there. Click in there. Is there something in there?
Yeah,
scripts?
we did.
Oh, it's just scripts. We did a cat scripts.
Oh, we did. Yeah, we did. It was for our like post. We did like why boxes are so fun. The laser pointer paradox. If I fits, I sits.
I feel like we should have incorporated a box to put the Understore character into.
Yeah.
Like everyone pops out from a little box.
Oh my god, true. So this was done very quickly and didn't have much thought put into it. Because you can see it's repurposed from the History of Science one that you guys were just looking at. But there's like catnip, there's mouse toys, there's a ball of yarn, and then the thing just says feed me, which I think Adam can come up with a way better one than that.
We've occasionally, it was more on older shows, that we would do, if it was a really long Unhistoric, we would film one of our hands on a green screen, like just either that would come in and scratch the chin, or would like hold an ear, or like tip a hat. But it ended up being a lot more work than it was. We put a lot more time into it than it was worth.
Yeah.
So we sort of faded away from that.
Somebody said, I guess this is like relating to a title, and they said Cucumbers Return, a horror story. It took me a second to understand that, but then I got it.
Wait, as a joke box? Wait, what was
No, this I think it's one of the episode titles.
Oh my god, that's so good.
I think you guys should try to do your best to come up with a couple before
and then
Adam comes down, and I'll get Adam,
kicker?
bring him down, and then we'll just see how fast.
Okay, let's try.
Okay.
So here's the joke.
Definitely
box.
the difficult part of
What
this process.
we're talking about is like what we name the box that's the jokes or the facts are. So they're always very.
We have it
here. So like this,
where it says just a theory, which is what we came to for History of Science, which is actually pretty like low key.
Yeah, usually they're more punny. Yeah.
For cats, it would be like, if I fits, I sits.
Yeah.
Or something to just introduce and carry the joke. So.
Yeah. And if anybody has any funny ones they can think of, please type them in the chat.
And our golden rule is nothing is too silly or stupid. Like, don't hold back. Like we always propose whatever.
Jennifer said, take a pause.
That's great. Oh,
that's really good.
She gets it.
Okay, when there's usually a really good one, we like bold it right away.
Usually we have a good we have a good feeling about one of them, and then
really the rule.
So that one's great.
We write down whatever anyone says, so that no one, even when they're really embarrassing, no one can get away from it. Okay, we're gonna bring Adam on for a sec. We thought of a really, really good one, but Adam doesn't know it, and we're gonna see what Adam suggests. So
this is Adam. This is our animator, art director.
There he is. Have they seen Kelsey yet? Even?
Yeah. So okay, so do you know the context? CC Cats.
CC Cats.
Joke
Unhistoric.
box. Yeah.
What you got?
Catnip conundrum.
Nice.
Okay. That's
here, I have a few from so Mission Impossible.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Claustrophobia.
You guys are putting Adam to shame.
Come on, quick Adam.
Be funny. Come on.
Let's be funny.
Spinny yarn. Something about that.
I'm furious.
Curious. Write it down. Let's not get away from that one.
Meow.
Meow.
Yeah, me now.
Yeah.
Okay, litter box. Litter box.
Catnip.
Yeah.
Catnip catastrophe.
What's the cat bacteria disease you can get?
Oh, toxoplasmosis.
Ooh.
Toxo.
Yeah.
Oh, tox.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, plasmosis.
Nice.
Someone
Yeah,
said telling a tale. Oh, it's the same. Yeah.
Ooh, that's
telling a tale.
good. Wow.
Whisker whispers.
Ooh, very ASMR.
Yeah, it's coming.
Catalysis. I guess that's like analysis.
Retractable clause.
7-year scratch.
Oh, that's
CAT
good.
scan.
Oh my
These are all
gosh.
great. Man,
We should just
I have to
crowdsource
say-
for these every
Shout
time.
out to Jennifer, who just like has
Whoa,
a bunch
that's
of
all-
really good ideas.
Nice.
There you go.
That's
All of you have
amazing.
really great ideas.
Oh
Okay,
man.
okay, so I think
so
we
which
got-
one are we
yeah.
bolding? Take a pause was still a
Take a
heavy
pause.
Still
hitter.
stands out.
Catnip conundrum, mission impossible, claustrophobia, I'm furious, toxoplasmosis, telling a tale, whisker whispers, catalysis, CAT scan. What do you guys think?
Take a pause.
I like take a pause. It was really good. I'd say my number 2 is like Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I like,
It's also really good.
I like that one.
Take a
Sorry.
pause works great.
Take a
'cause
pause
It's
is
like,
good.
you know,
Yep.
It
you
works
often
for the
do
joke.
want to take a pause when
Yeah.
a historic pops up.
That's very true.
This is the winner.
Yeah, so that's gonna be
Good
the
job,
one.
Jennifer.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Amazing.
That was quick.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
write.
We gotta crowdsource
really good.
things more often.
We're gonna do Jennifer's name in case it ever becomes a series. All right.
Oh, someone did say perfect, which is also
Ooh.
that's
Yeah, we got it right.
that one.
Wait, I don't get it. I don't get it.
No, I'm serious.
So all we have for style is person pops out of a box like cats, and then just cat stuff around. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Cat stuff around. Kind of like what we already had going.
Or it could just be like
Toys,
an
catnip,
image of a pet store behind it.
cat grass, etc., etc. Okay.
Done.
All right. So next is type. It's a big one. So
Thanks, Adam.
basically, yeah. Thanks, Adam.
Hope it helps.
So type is sorted into like different types of segment. Whoa, that's
Yeah.
different types of type. So we do like one word sort of terms or definitions. We often do text boxes. OST stands for on-screen type. So that's like when type just appears over top of the host. And then this is kind of a variation on the unhistoric we were just brainstorming that has a quote beside it. And then there's just the standard type, which is just a whole paragraph on screen. So we have examples of these in here. Oh, it's too big to preview. Darn it. Okay, well, we might find some of them here. So this is just a standard type, which is like a quote. So usually for these, we, especially recently, we're trying to kind of standardize our branding on these. We look at sort of like a bounding box and how we'd want to design that, and then some kind of imagery or graphics throughout the backdrop. We've done some really cool stuff in the past, like games was like stylized like an old video game.
Yeah, we had 3 or 4 different animated backgrounds for the type moments based on different games. In computer science, we had sort of 3 or 4 that were about like computer interfaces from different eras of computing.
And this one just kind of, it happens really quick, but it just plays off of like the idea of like a stack of papers, you know, like a scientist doing research, and they just kind of come in together, and this is like a notepad sort of idea.
And so it's like sometimes they're quotes, other times they're just interesting parts of the script that are like great to sort of just make full screen so that we really emphasize the importance of them. And then some shows highlight specific words, other shows just show the whole block.
Yeah, someone said, who decides which words are different colors?
That's up to the art director who annotates it.
Mm-hmm. So whatever they think needs to have emphasis.
I've asked for the shows that I work on, I ask the animators who, like, when they're actually doing it, if it feels weird the way I've highlighted, or if it seems like another word should be highlighted, I tell them to, like, go ahead and do it. They don't need to tell me, because sometimes things just work differently when you're actually seeing it in motion than when you're just looking at the script.
So it's kind of a morbid one, but this is an example of the on-screen type, and usually it's over the host, but in this case it's over B-roll. So this is supposed to look sort of like you're looking through a sample, looking at a sample through a microscope. So there's like these bacterias kind of floating. There's like the black field around it. So anyone that's looked through a microscope might relate.
And it's interesting to know that we don't really know where B-roll is gonna go on the show when we pass it off. All we get is the host on the set, and we put our stuff in and mark it all down in the script. And so sometimes when it gets back to the director and the editor down in Missoula or Indianapolis, they'll throw it in. So sometimes they'll throw B-roll, but as long as they choose pictures that work well with the type, then it works well. We don't even really need to discuss it or know about it. As long as they get the final say with what it looks like.
So for cats, so we usually just think of the basic type first and what that might look like. And we also explore, like, obviously typefaces and colors, but for the purposes of brainstorming, it's usually like, you know, maybe it's a piece of paper with, you know how cats like always sit on paper?
Yeah.
Like anytime I put any piece of paper or even like my phone or like a remote, like my cat sits right on it. Or like, you know how there's like photos of them sitting on glass? Oh my God, does anyone know this? It's like the best.
Oh, someone asked, is the host always positioned on screen?
No, you can totally put the type over, like, just get photos like that.
Yeah.
We could even get videos where they're just sort of moving a little bit, like pawing at it.
Yeah. We had our own sort of, like, we did some big filming.
Yeah.
Of those assets of them on green screen.
Yeah.
Someone asked, is the host always positioned on screen in a specific spot to fit your graphics, i.e. is that pre-coordinated?
No, they film, the way they actually film it is the host is sort of sitting where they are, and they film it in 4K, I believe, from kind of far back. I'm not sure if it's medium wide. I'm not sure I think this is a good example.
I think that's like how far back it is.
And then because they film it in such high definition, they can go in and zoom in and create the different framing shots when they edit it. And basically they send it to us already edited with the different shots. And so we can design it based on how they frame it, but also if there's like a ditty that we want that is looking to feel a little too tight, all we have to do is send a little note to them for that shot to just move the host over a bit or pull back a bit. So everything's very adjustable.
Yeah. And I think typically they adjust to it as well.
Yeah. Sometimes we just do the graphics, and then they all have good eyes. They adjust the shot as need be.
This is like the best thing ever. I hope there's people I'm introducing it to.
You're introducing this to me.
It's so cute and weird.
Also, like the on-screen type, usually there's not a whole lot of concept to it. Like the history science one had the bacteria. That's really cool. But other times when we're branding, we sort of will find a secondary font that just works well with the overall show, and either just have that in a box or have that with some drop shadow without it necessarily being a whole lot more.
We could throw in maybe like just like a striped texture behind one, or like a spotted texture.
Yeah.
Do like textured type.
Yeah, we did that with study skills. It was like there was a specific font used, but to make it look a little cooler, we had it on like a digital screen that popped up that had some flicker to it.
It was media literacy, right?
Media literacy, yeah.
Study skills was like, they looked like school stickers,
right?
Like organization stickers.
It would be easy to get like a hairy font.
Ooh.
Fur font.
So a couple people have ideas for the transitions. One person said a transition could be a cat rubbing against the scene, or a cat swatting the title away. Or pushing it off a table. We know they like to do that.
That's a good idea. What was the other one? Pushing off the table or swatting away?
Swatting it away.
I like that. Yeah, furry font would be great too for an OST. The unhistoric quote is like, it's basically like our unhistoric, but it has room for a quote. So
our
it's kind of just
joke box.
adapted.
Yeah, our joke box just becomes bigger.
Yeah.
And person gets moved over a bit. That was weird.
The dogs are trying to get into the room here. Or get out. Is that a growl?
I don't know what that was.
So text box. So text box, I don't know if we'll see an example.
No, they're rare.
Yeah,
They're
there might
usually-
be one in the branding actually.
They're mostly used for corrections. So if something that was like recorded and the host says that's incorrect or that we didn't necessarily cover, but that's really important and we notice after the fact, then we'll throw a text box on with a little side note or sort of correction.
We should have a little cat hanging off.
Oh yeah, like
Oh my
hanging
God,
there,
for
hanging
sure.
there.
So this is an example here. If it previews it, it might be too big of a file. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So this is one text box. This is another. These are just two different designs. So yeah, there's just like some ideas. We'll usually kind of have fun with these when we do them because they can play off things quite a bit.
Someone asked, who does the copy for the opening credit quotes? You guys host or other copywriter? I guess
do.
like for the opening sequence?
Yeah, we do all that stuff. We'll do all the research for it and we'll put it all together and then we'll run it by their team before the finals just to get their okay. They almost always approve of them without any problem.
So thought bubbles we don't typically do much here. So thought bubbles are the like around 2 minute animated segments in each episode. And most series do them, not every series. And then if anything, I know for like something like theater, we talked about like having people holding up props sometimes so that it looks like a stage production. For games, we tried a thing where like at the end of every thought bubble, it ended in a death, like in a game over situation, which I think you guys did for the first bunch, right?
We
quite
did
quite a few.
until episode 30,
Yeah.
maybe or something.
Oh yeah, so
Something
it's
just
a
gets
hefty
really
amount.
hard sometimes when you're doing like 40 episodes.
Yeah.
Sometimes those thought bubbles end just in a way that's either it'd be inappropriate, like some with the historical stuff. Sometimes the subject matter is really serious and you don't want to joke too much. Where it's like if you've got to run a gag like that, like well, you should probably not do that.
Appropriate, yeah.
Other times it's just really hard.
So
Yeah.
someone asked, can you ballpark how many people total it takes to make an episode, including researchers and your team and studio crew?
You want to cover that one?
Well, it's tough to say on their end because some shows have different number of consultants. Sometimes I think generally there's usually one consultant per show, one writer, the host.
Producer.
I would just be guessing about like 5 to 6 people on their end before we ever get it, and then we just get the finished scripts and edit from the host on set. And then once we get it, it can be as few as 2 to 3 people. You have like sometimes the art director who annotates it also illustrates it, but generally we'd have that person that would be their job. Then another illustrator takes the script and draws everything, and then that goes to an animator. Sometimes it's just one animator, sometimes it's 2 animators on a show, depending on how intense it is.
Brian asked, how many hours does a 2-minute thought bubble take to animate?
If you have an animator here.
Well, it takes them like 4 full days, I would say.
But for just a thought bubble?
Yeah, to animate the entire
thought bubble.
I'd say 2 days, generally.
Yeah.
Unless it's like really intense, 2 full work days.
Yeah.
So like
we've kind of
14,
gotten
16
it
hours.
down to a science because of how many shows are happening and with the library of illustration and stuff that we have.
Also, just like because we're doing it so long, it's like it's sort of like you just have to get it done by this time. So do whatever you can in that allotted time.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like a thought bubble from games, and then
Is it gonna get a game over?
I think it should. It's like
An early
episode 4.
It's
But
just-
you'll see like a type moment in here, what we were talking about. So it's kind of, we did these type moments that were inspired
Those were
by
so good.
Yeah,
old
those are the
school
best.
games. Yeah.
I think, yeah, something crushes them at the end here.
Come on.
It's a bit morbid, but
What's it gonna be?
It's all about Pong.
I really hope there's a game over in this one.
I know, right?
He gets crushed. This guy,
Oh,
yeah, nothing falls on him. He
On
dies.
this guy in the corner.
And
You're about to.
we can be pretty ruthless.
Yeah.
it's gonna fall down.
Oh my
Come
God.
on. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go. Nice. That like classic.
Good payoff.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if we'd have anything for thought bubbles unless it's something like everyone's always a cat.
Yeah.
That would be kind of funny. Or there's just lots of cats.
It's pretty much
Lots of cats. Or everyone is a cat. No matter who they are.
Or occasionally we have like someone as if they're like from the play cats, so they're in like a cat costume trying to live
Yeah.
amongst cats, just like licking their hands.
Yeah.
Brian says, I love how the legs are just curves rather than bending at the knee.
Yeah,
It's kind of their thing, yeah.
Yeah. Helps them move in a silly way too.
Having the mouse, if you go with the mouse mascot, having that mouse come in and just try and escape death.
Ooh.
Oh, that's good.
So B-roll special segments is just like if there's anything that we had it up at the top too, if there's any notes from like the Crash Course team. So we'll often either do like a kickoff call with them, or they'll just let us know as we approach the branding of the series if there's anything special they do. So like you've encountered.
Yeah, Indianapolis has done them a bunch. So with computer science, a lot of the stuff there's a segment called like levels of abstraction, where they sort of take really complicated ideas and break it down into a more simplified, abstract way. And so we would discuss it with their team at the beginning that this was going to be a recurring segment, so it would be worth our time to do a little animated intro for it. And so yeah, there we go. So this is an example where it will start with. This one started with our host, Carrie Ann, and in this show we did have a mascot. It was just an old computer we internally called Compy. It wasn't very original and interesting, but it never really was mentioned outside of this segment. So it starts with them, the two of them standing by an elevator, and they look more realistic. They're more realistic characters, and then they go up 2 floors. They go start on the first, and they go up to the 3rd floor, and on each floor they get simplified into more abstract terms. So the 2nd floor is they look kind of pixelated like Minecraft state, and then the 3rd floor is them. You can just like give them shapes. That was cool.
Was it in every episode?
No,
right? That might be hard to find. But if you guys check out Crash Course Computer Science, you'll definitely come across it.
It's stats. There's a recurring one that's sort of like world news. It only happens every 5 or 10 episodes, but it's kind of like it cuts to almost like a news desk. But with Adrian at the news desk, and we've got like a world news style.
Government had Clone Zone.
Yeah. Government had the Clone Zone.
That's
Games
Compy.
had
They started with games.
Level Up.
Yeah, which we only did a few times, right? Yeah, first couple episodes.
Clone Zone. I don't.
Yeah, check that out.
Government.
Yeah. That was
Oh,
where
right.
Wheezy Waiter's whole thing is kind of
That's way back in the day.
I don't know if hopefully that'll work out. That was a cool one. Yeah, so it's
yeah.
it's Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Nice.
Their heads each hit each other, heads blast up. That was a cool one.
So yeah, that's like we'll either have notes from them or kind of brainstorm it here if there's anything we need to design for it. So
Yeah.
for cats, we're gonna say that we're good.
Okay.
I
Cat fight though.
haven't. Let's just put that down. So
It's got a human host and a cat co-host
Oh yeah.
that
oh
we
my God,
pan
it's
to.
so good.
That's
Just for
cute.
like the deadpan like jokes that fall flat, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
on the cat.
We're just
Yeah,
gonna
that's
pretend
good.
that Cece told us that there will be a cat co-host.
I say multiple cats.
Just a room full of cats. It's being filled. Like 15 cats just walking around the room.
Filmed on set and cat cafe, whatever cats are there.
So the last thing, and we came on this late, so we're gonna go until like 10 after.
Oh, right.
For anyone that just joined us. But yeah, so the last sort of bit is like the thumbnail. So these are like big branding things.
Ooh, yeah.
Is the thumbnail that we also call the open header, because it often intros the thought bubbles as well, but it's used for the episode thumbnails. So the design of that, sometimes we think about like how the thumbnail is going to progress over time, maybe in terms of color, or maybe it's like slightly changing over time. So there's some interesting things there. Some shows have a table of contents, but not all of them. And that's just at the end, there's like a list of what was covered. And then of course the end credits, just, you know, list everyone that works on the show. And so we kind of design the type and the background for that. And that transitions into the end screen, which we also design. So you can see there's like a lot to cover, but it's all fun.
Let's go into the thumbnails, because those are fun. We put a lot of time into those too.
Jennifer asks, is this brainstorming usually an hour, or is it usually longer / shorter?
We've gotten pretty like used to it, so I'd say it's about an hour.
About an hour.
Yeah.
Right? So this is
true.
pretty
real
real time.
True to the process.
This is, yeah. Like we're ready to brand Crash Course.
Yeah, we're ready to do this. We're just waiting for the go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So these are some thumbnails.
Yeah. So like sometimes it can be fun like to find like an object or base it around something that's related to the series. When it can come naturally, those are I think, and for me personally, are the ones that are most fun to design. So right here, you're already seeing ones for like theater and drama. They've based it after like a theater ticket. Stats is based off of like a graphing calculator. Games, we based it off of like a Super Nintendo cartridge.
Yeah, if you go to the playlists, the games ones.
Mm-hmm. I think in a playlist, it's like hard to see them.
Just go into the Dropbox. We got all the JPEGs.
Yeah, that's true. It would be in, I guess, like in our actual branding, because that was the template. These are templates.
So you can just go back to the main.
Yeah, and asset tools, and then segments, and then so you guys get to see how we like organize our library as well. So open header is where we design the thumbnail. See if it shows up. Yeah.
Yeah. So this the game one. That was
cartridge. Yeah.
And then basically you sort of got a Crash Course logo in the top left, which we sort of started doing a while ago. Sort of having to figure out which corners end up getting content over top of them from YouTube's end. It took us a while to sort of get that right. And then sometimes when YouTube changes it, we sort of have to take note and make sure going forward that things sit away. So like you've got like the time code in the bottom right and a little like clock icon on the top right.
You're gonna go back and hover.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the time thing shows up here.
So we basically got the left side to work, the left corners to work with.
Yeah.
And we always sort of like from the very beginning, we sort of had discussions about what kind of design of a thumbnail is the most successful, and the ones we like are just ones that have like really big type. So we always have to have some kind of type on them. And then we sort of like we've tried ones without any characters at all. Things like sociology, we didn't use any characters just because that show didn't have a ton of characters that would have been really eye-catching to begin with. So other shows, we tend to have characters and we'll just throw the character that gets mentioned that will be the most sort of like eye-catching, the most sort of like kind of most clickbaity, for lack of a better word. Even if so, it's like sometimes we throw them in there with a character that maybe appears for a second, but they're in the show, so come check it out.
So for CC Cats, you probably want to leverage big people like cats. Yeah. You want a big cat face or cat something going on.
That's one where you might not need words.
Yeah.
Just a picture of a tabby cat. A picture of a what's the naked cat? Is it just called? Yeah. Sphinx cat. I'm clicking.
You know, and let's not even do titles. Let's just say top 10 things you didn't know about cats. 10 more things.
Lists only.
10 things you know about cats 1. 10 things you didn't know about cats 2.
It could also have like scratches on each thumbnail where like by the end of the series, like you can barely read it.
That's great.
Just a couple of scraps of color by the end of the
Scratches progressing through series until unreadable, which might work against us, but it's kind of funny.
One interesting thing about we've got all these like thumbnails that come out every week, and for the most part, each one on each series is designed by a different illustrator. But it's crazy how often when you look at just the list of the latest videos from the past week, how often it's the same colors, because each show you sort of cycle through a color scheme that's kind of pretty much like a rainbow or goes through the color spectrum. Mm-hmm. And the show might not start, it's not like all shows start on a green thumbnail, but it doesn't take long before it's like all the shows of that week are with either like blue or kind of purple.
Yeah.
And like, how does that happen?
Like
I don't think we can avoid it.
Yeah.
Or it's like maybe that happens and then everyone notices it and like, oh, we should do one. It's like next week is all green.
Have we shown the physics one? Because isn't that rainbow?
Oh yeah.
It's just a pleasing one to look at.
We didn't do any sketches today, but you got to see some boxes.
Didn't need to.
It fits for the cat theme, you know?
Yeah. So we're just gonna share again so we can show you guys the physics.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we just need the spray.
So physics, let's see. 19.
You can't really see.
You just have to click on it and then it'll show you.
Yeah.
Oh.
It'll show in the sidebar.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. So you can see here.
At that.
Woo!
But no one will ever see it.
Beautiful.
It's the little things that count.
Yeah. Oof. I like that. I think theater's doing a similar thing right now too.
I think most shows do that.
Yeah.
So any ideas for, let's just pretend there isn't a table of contents in this series because some of them don't do it, just for the sake of time. But for end credits and end screen, we usually keep the same design going. Like the background stays the same, but the sort of type stuff changes. So like in history of science, we have, so this does have a table of contents. So this is basically what it is. It just kind of goes through, in this case, actually, it just talks about what can be expected in the next episode, which is a little different. And then the end credits are right after this.
The game is a good one too. We had that animated. This is just sort of like B-roll.
Yeah, that's true. I could go to a game one. Let's just type in games here and we'll pull up a random episode.
We had the sort of Space Invaders one for the credits.
Oh yeah.
Where we just had like the ships floating around the edges and shooting each other.
Yeah, so that was the games one, which is pretty sweet.
And then that led into the end screen too, right?
Yeah. I think it just transitions right into it, which looked really cool actually with the thumbnail designs with the cartridges when they pop up here.
Yeah.
So you'll see in a second.
The old style.
Right. Oh yeah, the end screens have changed.
Oh, the links all still work the same way though.
They do, cool. Yeah. Yeah, because now we have like the buttons for subscribing to our channel, to the Crash Course channel. So this is actually the older end screen format, which is an interesting part of it too, because as YouTube changes, it's, technical things and specifications, we have to update our designs as well.
Yeah, it's tricky because now there's like a limit on how many links we can do. Like I think we can only do 4 clickable links now, and like 2 of them have to be channel links.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like when you go to like
it took us a long time to get it right. But the new,
that was what was happening to us.
And cat.
So this is like what they look like now.
Yeah. So we've got Crash
So
Course
these are
link,
actual built-in links.
Doc Cafe channel, Patreon link.
And then next episode.
The playlist. And then we've got the thing up top that's like, it looks like a link, but we don't have enough clickable links. So it's more just a reminder to check out dftva.com for our merchandise.
By the way,
yeah.
One more question. How much notice, if any, does YouTube give you about changes like this? None. We just come to work one day and it's like, it looks kind of messed up.
Yeah, they're just like, introducing the new YouTube. And we're like, we have to change everything. It hasn't been that bad, but
yeah, Suze has the days sometimes where she just has to.
Suddenly the banner just looks completely off and we have to change it. But the last update they did was pretty seamless. I feel like they're getting a little better with that.
Right.
And that is nice. At least the old ones remain. It's not like once they change, all the other ones just get ruined.
But I think with the end screens recently, we were told quite in advance because I think the Crash Course team had like a preview of that and then they told us about it. So sometimes like certain channels will preview it, like get a preview of the change before it gets rolled out for everybody. So then that can be ideal too.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, did we want to? I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That concludes our brainstorm.
We'll just fill in like the little end screen ourselves. I don't know. We could just say quickly what it's going to be like just grass, cat grass.
Yeah. Oh, someone said
cat butt.
Nice.
Oh my God, cat butt.
Cat chasing something behind the credits.
That's cute. Like a little B-roll, a slow-mo B-roll of the cat.
The mouse could be running around like the spaceships for.
Oh, yeah. We got a question. What affiliation do you have with Adobe because you show their logo on the end screen?
Yeah, well, it's sort of like an ongoing relationship, but for when we put those ones out, they sort of covered our licenses for our studio and for the US studio. So our deal was that we would put the links to their tutorial site or their sign up page, and there was like a discounted rate for people that click that link, but that was basically all it was.
And we have Adobe tutorials.
Yeah.
So we have a partnership with Adobe, and so there will be tutorials using Crash Course episodes coming soon.
Yeah.
And that'll cover not just animation and illustration, but also like editing, and so it'll be like our side of things, but also Missoula and Indiana.
It's sort of just like going through the steps to make what it takes to make an episode of Crash Course. It's like if you've never touched any of the programs before, it takes you through just on the basics. So it's not like you'll really be able to make an episode of Crash Course, but we show you behind the scenes how we do it, and then you get to learn the first easy steps from like all the Adobe Creative Cloud suite. So like sound editing, then on our end, the illustration and animation programs like Illustrator and After Effects. Yeah, and you get the like actual files as well.
Yes.
And those aren't out yet though, so just stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yeah, we talked about it at the panel as well, so they're all ready to go, but we just have to air them. So yeah. Well,
thank you so much for joining the Patreon live stream.
Yeah, thank you. We are all rooting for Crash Course Cats.
Let's make this happen.
Make this happen. Thanks for everyone that contributed ideas along with us. It was really fun to brainstorm together.
Yeah, thanks. We got some nice thank you comments. So thank you guys for contributing to Patreon and joining us.
All right. Well, have a great day. If you have a cat, then go pet your cat. All right. Bye.
Bye.